Oh, I'm so excited to be back here with you all. Did you hear the announcement today? Yes, the podcast is launching with a new name on November 7th, Redefining Hustle, Pursuing Success as a Christian Entrepreneur. And I just know that that is going to allow it to reach even more women just like you and I who so desperately want to glorify God in our business, but as high achievers, as ambitious women, we're really caught in the middle between this noise of hustle harder and the new mantra of anti hustle. There is a place in the middle, friend, and it is called redefining hustle. So, anyway, let me calm down from that celebration. There's going to be more about that next week as well. But make sure you go listen to the trailer because it's out right now. That link is in the show notes. But if you're following this on your favorite podcast network, you'll see the trailer. So go listen to it and share it. Okay. This week, we are talking about principle number 4 for redefining hustle, focus over FOMO. And this, what I've been sharing, has been so incredible. The feedback that you're giving is amazing. I love hearing from you. So feel free to DM me, share this, tag me, all the things. This is content from my book, Pursuing Success God's Way, a practical guide to hustle and with heart, which published in March of 2020, but you can go get it on Amazon. So look below and you'll find that link. And I think coming up for Black Friday, or definitely for the holidays, I'm going to have a special book pack that will have a signed copy of the book with a bookmark, my quote cards, etc. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, we've been talking about these principles based on my foundational verses of John 15:4 and 5, which is all about abiding in, being enmeshed in, walking alongside of, being connected to Jesus as the vine, because without him, we can do nothing. And because he is our nourishment, these principles are all about letting him be in the driver's seat, right? So this week we're talking about FOMO. Now, for those of you that may not have a marketing background, I really don't have a marketing background, but I've heard enough advertising agencies talk about the power of leveraging FOMO to sell their products or sell services. Quite frankly, when I was active in my network marketing business, FOMO was absolutely part of our messaging, right? To be present in such a way that people feel like they're missing out, and that builds a desire in them to want to use the products or come be part of your team, etc. And listen, could we get all riled up that this is manipulative? Of course we could, but friends, it is the way of marketing in the world, and we already know that we live in a world that feeds on those things. However, there is a way to combat this, and it is all about focus. So, I want to take you first to Psalm 34:10, which says, "The young lions suffer want and hunger, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing." So, as we are seeking the Lord in life, in our business, we will lack nothing. Those results may look different than we want them to look. We may not have the client roster that we want. We may not have all of the dollars that we think we want, especially when there's a lot of noise in the marketplace about, six figures being the success marker, if you will. But if we are really focused on him, we will have everything that he needs for us to have. So, a quick story: when my husband and I were building our house back out in Arizona in 2004, we were, of course, like looking for the furniture. And I was obsessed, putting it mildly, with Pottery Barn and Pottery Barn Kids. And so I wanted my daughters to have everything that was Pottery Barn Baby, Pottery Barn Kids, Pottery Barn Teen, because I thought it just gets more beautiful with every stage and they just need to have these things. And probably I wanted them to have these things also because I never had things like that. Because if you listen to this podcast, you've heard me share my story that I grew up in and out of poverty with my mom doing everything she could to take care of her 4 kids. So even though I had all the Pottery Barn kid furniture, then I had to have the bedding, and then I had to have the curtains, and then I wanted the desk, and then I like all the things. And so it was an insatiable hunger, and it was fear of missing out. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the catalogs, but you're looking through there and you're like, oh my gosh, if I could only live in a space like that. Friends, that is the fear of missing out. So I imagine that if Jesus were defining FOMO, he might say something like, focus on me only. Mm, right there, right? Focus on me only. But don't we get so caught up in looking left and right? We talked about imposter syndrome earlier in an episode, and we're always looking around to see who's showing up where on social media and what are they seeing and what are they talking about? Where's their business and all the things? And this is why we have a challenge with resting, because we feel like we have to keep going because we have to keep up. And we have a challenge with resilience because then we get so burnt out that we stumble and we aren't steadfast in the mission that the Lord has given us. Why? Because we want it to be our way. So as I was writing the chapter that I'm reading from in my book, I was reading Galatians 6:4, and it says, each person should test their own work and be happy with doing a good job and not compare themselves with others. And that's from the Contemporary English Bible. And it reminded me of being in fifth grade at St. Ignatius Catholic School with Sister William, like snapping down her ruler on the desk and probably saying 10 times every hour, keep your eyes on your own paper and finish your work. So it doesn't matter what level of achievement you have or accomplishment, or even how close you are to the Lord and how deep your relationship with him is, comparison happens. And there's zero shame about it, friend, because we are human and it's going to happen. It's just how we are wired. So, a couple of things on this. First of all, when you're feeling FOMO is exactly the time to lean into the Lord right then and there. Lean into the Lord and ask him to remind you how incredibly special you are. The second thing is, um, you know, as the Lord said to Joshua in 1:7 that this law of the Lord shall not depart from your mouth. You shall meditate on it day and night, and you shall not look left and right. Throughout scripture, he tells us to stop looking left and right. It is why they put blinders on horses, so they will not be distracted by what's around them. But here's the other thing. I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise or on a boat. I have a tendency to get seasick. I'm fine on a lake or a river, but in the ocean or the bay, it wreaks havoc. Anybody else? Anybody else like that? Okay. So what I learned, whether I'm also sometimes I get car sick or on the train or whatever, is to look to the horizon, to focus on the horizon. But see, the enemy wants you drifting in such a way that you feel off balance, that you are on uneven. So then that starts to make you feel sometimes physically sick in your business. And that seasickness is combated by not looking left and right and by focusing on the horizon or focusing on the Lord. So if you think about Peter in Matthew 14:22 through 33, I feel like, I want to say to Peter, like, Peter, just look straight ahead of Jesus, right? Look at the horizon. He is it. So here's Peter. The Lord calls him out onto the water and he's doing great. And he's like, hey, look at me. I'm walking on water. That's a total paraphrase and out of context. But then the storm winds start to whip up and the clouds and the rain, and he immediately loses focus. And what does he do? He starts to sink. And what does Jesus tell him in so many words? To focus on me, to focus on me. And as soon as he looks into Jesus's eyes, he's focused and steady again. So I have an acronym for you for the word focus. And that acronym is focus on Christ until steady. FOCUS, focus on Christ until steady. Now, friends, sometimes you are so deep in the FOMO or so deep in the situation that you are in darkness and you're like, I can't even see the Lord. Friend, he is there and he is waiting for you to put your hand in his grip and look him in the eye so that you can focus on him and regain your composure, regain your steadfastness, regain your resilience, right? And here's the thing. Why is that important for us to do? Well, because that's emulating Jesus. Jesus sought out his Father before he did everything. How many times in the New Testament are we told that Jesus went off on his own to a quiet place, to a lonely place to pray? Why? Because even in his perfection, even in his clarity of his mission, even as he hustled, and let me remind you, it does not say hustle in the Bible, but it is the way we redefine hustle. The first definition of hustle in the dictionary: to work with intention, to work with a sense of timing and purpose. He already knew that, and yet he still sought out his Father's instructions. He chose focus over FOMO. Now, he would never be subjected to FOMO, but I find it so interesting that even in the Lord's perfection, that he seeks his Father's direction before acting. Friends, I still long for God's way in my business. I do. I still long for the bigger client roster. I'd love to coach with you, by the way. I still long for the outcomes that I want, but I have to subject myself and surrender, like we talked about last week, and have the Godfidence, like we talked about in the month of September, to walk in a safe space with the Lord. And remember, we talked about safe with strategy, accountability, focus, there it is again, and encouragement. Friends, we are called to walk that way in our business. And that's why we are called to focus over FOMO. Before we finish up, there are a couple of things that I want to point you to really quickly. Down in the show notes, I realize it's October 24th, but it is not too late to plan out your next 90 days. And you can do that with the 90-day tool. So that is down in the show notes. It is an exercise I do quarterly with my Rooted group coaching community. We just finished it up earlier this month, but you can still use this tool. So go grab a copy of it, right? Secondly, if you are in the Annapolis, DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, for those who don't live here and don't really know what DMV is, if you are in that area, I want to invite you to go down to the show notes and register for my upcoming retreat, the Redefining Hustle half-day retreat. It is coming up in Annapolis. You don't want to miss it. So go check that out. Registration literally just opened today. So grab your spot because spots are limited to 15. Okay. Secondly, no matter where you live, come explore my Rooted live group coaching community by grabbing your visitor pass. That Rooted visitor pass lets you visit for one of our live group coachings. We always meet the first Friday of the month. I would love to have you there so that you can experience not only working with me, but this incredible community of women who are redefining hustle and pursuing success for God's glory, just like you. And lastly, I want to remind you again, go listen to the trailer for the new podcast name and leave a review. Make sure if you leave me a review that you message me on social media so that I know you left the review, because I'm going to send you a copy of my ebook, which is pieces from the book that I've been teaching you from. And you're going to go into a drawing for a $25 Amazon gift card. So much excitement coming over the next 2 weeks. I don't want you to miss it. Okay. Until next time, when we wrap the bow on this 5 principle series, I pray for and encourage you to tune out the world, tune into God's truth, and turn up focus. Remember, focus over FOMO. And I'll see you on the next episode.